Okay, that's the recording button. It's recording now? Mm-hmm. So we can just leave it recording. Yep.
Oh, this is difficult to turn.
Yeah.
You turn the black knob and it'll make it easy.
This thing, turning that gives you tilt up and down. Turning this gives you rotate that way. All right. All right. So we're on video. Yes.
Woo! Video.
No. You're not.
How do you tilt up and down? All right.
Yes. You have time to use your computer.
Are we recording the whole class?
Maggie's head is right in the video.
Wait, Maggie, can you turn around?
Your hair looks good, Maggie.
Out of here, we can get your electricity
Right.
in there. But don't worry about it. All right. So, am I on camera?
Oh no, I was recording Britta.
Okay. So these are some announcements. Again, Dr. Ambrose will be here in a bit. So new resources in Canvas. All right. So what I wanted to do was point to some resources, and I'm going to close this and go over to Pages.
You want me to get the screen too?
Sure, you can get the screen.
Or do you want just you?
The screen. The screen's more important than that. Okay. So
Screen.
new resources in Canvas.
Maggie's head is just in there.
Current news. There has been a current news link for some time, and so when I see news, like in the New York Times, that relates to what we're doing, I stick it in there. The most recent one wasn't too long ago. It was a front page story on the New York Times, and it says, okay, we can't fix the schools, that's too hard and too expensive, so let's just give medicine to the kids. So the degree to which they're given Ritalin and a variety of other stimulants and anything for ADD, ADHD to the kids. Why? Because it's cheaper. Well, actually, it's actually more expensive, but there's money to be made by drugging the kids rather than money to be spent by fixing the schools. Jackie is making this sound like it's a bad idea. Jackie, I can't understand why you'd object to that.
Should I zoom in on Jackie?
Yes. So you're going to find that in current news, that story. There's also a couple other stories in there. We started this class by talking about trying to define art. And we were trying to define the arts widely. Well, there was an article in the New York Times right about the beginning of class that was about a court case that was trying to determine if lap dancing is an art. Okay? And the reason they're trying to determine it is because if you go buy a ticket for a theatrical production, it is not taxed because it's a high art and they want to support the arts. And you go spend money at a strip joint for a lap dance and it is taxed. And so the people at the strip joints are saying, this shouldn't be taxed because it's an art. So it comes down to a court case, and how do they determine? It turns out if lap dancing has choreography, it's an art. But if it's just unchoreographed, then it isn't. So this is real. This is news.
Arbitrary.
Well, again, this is how we define things.
I was watching the Anderson show a couple weeks ago, and a big argument they had was is pole dancing a good form of exercise for children?
Okay.
And it was crazy how they were thinking, yeah, it's totally exercise for children because they have routines and stuff. And I'm like, oh my goodness, you're crazy.
There was a movement. I'm on the SRC committee. Basically, we decide what kind of group exercise, and there was discussion of whether or not we should have pole dancing over in the SRC. And for some reason, the conservative forces that exist kind of voted it down. But it turns out it's possible that pole dancing is going to become an Olympic sport.
Yeah,
So
it's like
stay tuned.
4-year-olds.
Stay tuned to this event. All right. Intellectual property. There's a link in here for intellectual property, and it turns out Jad is going to give a presentation about intellectual property. He's going to do about 7 minutes. I'm going to do about 3 minutes sort of wrapping around it. But intellectual property is something that is essential to our enterprise of higher education, publishing, etc. You buy books that are often copyrighted, etc. And Jad had made a statement about he was, sort of in favor of piracy. Well, Ryder has a policy, and Ryder's policy was recently revised, and it is now this brilliant policy, except for the fact that it goes like this. Ryder respects intellectual property. No, Ryder respects copyright. And all Ryder students, faculty, and staff should understand and fully exercise their fair use rights. So this is a great policy, except that all students, faculty, and staff don't understand their fair use rights, so therefore they're not getting exercise. But Jad will be talking about intellectual property. And then we're also going to get a demonstration. I think we're going to have Vanessa go first. She's going to demonstrate Portal. She had mentioned that a couple classes ago. I put a Portal page in there because I am a firm believer that video games are just an amazing, revolutionary way to support higher order thinking and creativity, etc. So this is a book by James Paul G. called What Video Games Have to Teach Us About Learning and Literacy. So once I'm done announcing stuff and talking about the quiz, etc., Vanessa's going to show us a little bit about Portal, which I had known about because of its mother company, Valve, and their engagement with the schools and bringing school children into Valve headquarters and having them design and make rooms for portable games, which is pretty impressive. Okay, there's a Pygmalion page. So we just read a play that is based upon a myth that generated poems and paintings, turned into a play is turned into a musical is turned into a film, and a little later on we're going to look at about the first 9 minutes of the film of the play. And as we're doing that, think about different art forms, and think about aesthetics, and think about what happens when a work of art moves from one medium to another, and think about the classes that are represented in the art form, as well as the classes for whom the art form is delivered. Like, what's the difference between the class of people that go to a stage play and the class of people that go to a movie? One of the things is a difference in the ability to pay $100 a ticket or $7 a ticket, okay? The quiz, #1 answers. So I have the quiz answers up in there. So what I did, as I was trying to score your quizzes, I came up with what I thought were full point versions of the answers. And then as I'm reading yours, if you skip something that I thought should have been in there, I took off a point or so. So by and large, most everybody did quite well. The high score was 29, the low score was 20, the average score was 25. People were more inclined to lose points on the definitions. Say in the definition of create aside, one of the things that Berliner says, it's this sort of, this movement, this project, but it adversely affects people from who don't have money more. And if you kind of left that out of the definition, that was kind of part of the definition. Similarly, when we talk about narrowing the curriculum, it's down just to math and reading, but the math and reading are also narrowed, crummy versions of it. They're not people like writing and reading for their own pleasure, etc. So a lot of people got 3s on their definitions. Most people got like 9s, 9 out of 10s on their essay portions. And if you think I took off more points than should have been taken off, talk to me. I'm a reasonable person. I'll negotiate. Bring me chocolate. I'll raise your grade. Who cares? All right. So, so the research argument. So there's a page in there about the research argument, which many of you probably read as you were preparing your response. Ed was the first one to say, well, I don't really know what I'm supposed to be doing here, but that's what everybody else does. I think I'm supposed to be joining stuff together. And it turns out in the description of the research argument, I never pointed back to that learning goal and the syllabus. And that's where it says specifically, your research argument should integrate key ideas of multiple resources from various disciplines used in this course. So that's where the arts, creativity, educational theory, variety of things, you want to integrate them. But again, if you read the research argument thing, if you think of it as a term paper, there's 2 problems with that. One, it's not due at the end of the term, it's due at the 3/4 point, because things that are due at the end of the term, that's bad pedagogy. And paper, that's just saying what material it might be on, but if you're going to make a video, you can't put your video on paper, right? Or if you're going to make a Prezi, or if you're going to make some other kind of thing. So it's got to be a researched argument, but it doesn't have to print out on 10 pages of 250 words per page. And again, most of you are probably thinking in terms of doing it alone on your own, and by all means do that. But if 2 or 3 of you want to get together and do it, we will support that as well. Now, let's say it's going to be 10 pages per person. If 2 people do it together, do you got to come up with 20 pages? Well, not really, because some of the startup stuff and the end stuff is actually efficient, so maybe like 18 pages if 2 people. Maybe like, 25 pages if 3 people, something like that. No, a little more than 26 pages. So if you're going to work together, we want to support that, but we don't want to force people to collaborate, because a lot of times people don't like to collaborate. Why? Because they get put with somebody who's a total slacker, and they do all the work, and the slacker gets a free ride. We all know this could happen. So anyway, this is just big picture, all right? Shaw on Dickens. There's a page in there called Shaw on Dickens. So we just read Shaw, who happened to have written some stuff on Dickens, particularly on hard times. So what I did was I put there what Shaw says about Dickens, and then also in that same thing there's a PDF what Orwell says about Dickens, because the next person we're reading is Orwell. So I'm trying to help you connect these different authors and what they're saying about each other, because making connections is valuable. Anomalous behavior in the discussion board. Early on, we had a discussion board, and I posted something, Dr. Ambrose posted something, you posted something, and Dr. Ambrose kept having this experience where he would respond to you, and it wouldn't be under yours, it would be way down here. And I finally figured out what was happening. I made a post, and there's this option to write a reply or add reply to topic. So if I made a post and I write a reply, and then you write a reply, yours is a subset of mine, and then somebody responds to that, it's going to go down there. So that's why sometimes our replies to you aren't directly under you. that's because yours wasn't add a reply to a topic, yours was a reply to a post. But
Yeah.
eventually, we'll be able to figure that out and
I
find
do
it.
that all the time, and then after I do it, I'm like, crap, I did it
Yeah,
again.
all right, but none of that is significant. Are you ready to roll, Vanessa?
I have a question for, if we do end up doing like a Prezi or a video instead of a paper, what kind of requirements would that, like with the paper, if it's 10 pages, would the video have to be like 10 minutes, or would it be more, would it be like?
Excellent question. One of the things is, we still want it to be a researched argument. So we still want you to make a claim, and in my response to some of them, most of you had these interesting ideas. Some of them you made things where it sounded like you were just gonna tell us what Berliner said or whatever said. So one of the things that happens often in college is faculty ask for a paper or an essay, and what they get is a book report, okay? So basically, the research argument means you're gonna make a claim. You're gonna support your claim with stuff. So let's say it's a Prezi, or let's say it's a PowerPoint, or let's say it's a video. So what would be equivalent to 10 pages of writing in terms of the content that's in there, how many ideas, that could be, a Prezi with, 50 links in it or something. Or maybe it's a PowerPoint. One of the problems with PowerPoints, if it's just a PowerPoint where you just have the stuff on the screen and there's no audio narration, is the throughput, the discursive stuff that links page to page to page. Whereas a PowerPoint that is narrated, where in effect you're talking what you would have been reading if it had been written. So again, certainly we can probably come up with guesstimates of how much content in a PowerPoint or a Prezi or a video is the equivalent to about 10 pages or 2,500 words of typewritten essay. Make sense? All right, you ready to give us some Portal? All right, then if I switch this to desktop computer, we are seeing your stuff. Would you like
Maggie,
the
would
lights
you like to
all
say
off?
hi?
Are you still going to be able to video this?
I guess we'll see
All right.
now. Oh, it actually kind of looks better with the.
I will sit here.
Then you're in the way.
Okay, I will sit here and slouch. How's this?
That's actually good.
This works?
Do I need to get Vanessa?
I don't think you need to get Vanessa. It's probably.
I think she's dark anyway.
Yeah. All right. Here we go. You're on, Vanessa.
Okay, so this is Portal. Basically, it's a game where you pretty much start out in a room, and over time they slowly teach you how to use this thing called a portal gun, which lets you open up two portals, a blue one and an orange one. You can go from one to the other. And the reason why I love it so much is because it really helps you, it's a very interactive way to work with puzzles, because if you get really into the game, you get really into the character. There's a lot of reward in doing the puzzles, because they start out really easy, like open a portal here and get to the other side of this chasm or whatever.
Zoom in.
I won't worry about the challenge. And there's lots of rewards for completing it, because things start out really simple and then they get harder and harder. And there have been times where I've played a level for half an hour, and then after 2 seconds of doing the wrong, half an hour of doing the wrong thing, 2 seconds, and I'll get the right idea, and it just feels so good to finally complete what you were doing.
The Enrichment Center is committed to the well-being of all participants. Cake and group counseling will be available at the conclusion of the test. Thank you for helping us help you help us all.
The whole game is narrated by that voice.
GLaDOS.
Yeah, GLaDOS, and you get your little test number and the kind of hazards you're gonna face during the test. Basically, you have the little round thing at the top is things are going to hit you and they're dangerous. There's water you can fall into and die. But the thing with gamification is that you have all these risks, but because it's through a game, there's no actual risk to yourself. So you can feel free to experiment. Like, if you want to experience dying, you can just walk into the water and see what happens to your character. And then you have portals, and the one that looks like it's flying is basically propulsion. So when you go through a portal, none of your momentum is lost. And you can see an example of that here. Got one portal. Don't mind if I'm getting glitches through that field, which actually gets rid of your portals once you get through it, and with no risk to myself or the character. And then here's the things that can hurt you. You kind of gotta figure out how to get that little ball into this. Come on. And then that starts up this little elevator for you. So I've played this game like a million times now, but when I was first playing it, this level was the most difficult thing I ever faced. And then you get more difficult challenges here, like you can see how the level slowly progresses. And the first time we did this, the entire floor, you could put a portal on it, but here, this black stuff doesn't accept portals. So I can put a portal up there and do the exact same thing, and I just fall. So I gotta explore the level a bit. I see this thing here. There's the other side. I gotta do that again. Oops. Wrong side. Then it becomes a matter of how do I get that to go off of here and back there. A lot of times people start out like shooting portals here, here. That doesn't work. Also, if you try to get it to go off there, because it's in the same trajectory, it ends up going off and doing crazy things. So you have to, through a lot of trial and error that I've already completed, kind of figure out how to get it to the other side. No, wrong. Here we go. Or not. I mean, obviously was not going fast enough. Let's try that again. There we go. Now this part gave me the most trouble out of anything in the game. How I originally did it was this way. Oh shoot. And kind of hoped that the next platform would come before this one disappeared. And sometimes I messed up and fell in the water, which I did not actually need to do. So through a lot of trial and error, you can get a system like this, where you can stand safely here and watch for things to show up. This thing, but well, we have to get it through those two doors. So there's some levels like this where it took me like a million years to figure out how to do this most effectively. is that you don't only get internal rewards from just completing the challenge, but with some games you get achievements, which basically are awards that you can show off to your friends. Like, I can show off to my friends that I fell 30,000 feet in Portal. But another way that Valve and just pretty much a lot of games on Steam have done is that they have the Steam Workshop, where basically people can come in and make their own levels and their own stuff for video games, and Valve has done a lot to kind of support that, and especially with Portal, this video is from Portal 2.
Production line, I am reminded of my father. Now, he wasn't a scientist, just a simple farmer, a professor of farming at the local farm college. Never farmed a day in his life, but his theories on farming are the backbone of this company. Do it from scratch, spare no expense, and never cut corners. Well, that's a corner-cutting machine. We obviously cut them there. Point is, we've always done things the way my father did, and his father before him, and his father before him, and his father before him. And we are almost bankrupt. So, time for a cheaper approach. Allow me to introduce the multiverse. Infinite Earths with an infinite number of apertures. And as of now, they are going to take over all test chamber construction. And more importantly, all paying for test chamber construction. Why are they agreeing to do that? They're not. We're tricking them. Here's how it works. 1, design a test. 2, slip the mole monsters or what have you the blueprint when they're not looking. 3, once they build it, steal it back. Look at that sad little octopus. That's where you come in. We need blueprints. We are about to run the greatest con game in the history of the multiverse, and you are the bottleneck. Yes, you. Get back to work.
This is basically an advertisement for the workshop and building your levels that other people can then download and explore. So yeah, and it's basically just a really great way to invite creativity and critical thinking and working through puzzles through a game that makes it even more fun than puzzles usually are. I enjoy puzzles. So yeah, and I really lost my train of thought. But basically, Portal's awesome. They encourage creativity, and oh, it's also started a meme of like thinking with portals, which is basically, you know, when you look at something that's totally unrelated to Portal, but you apply Portal ideas to it, like, oh well, if this person had a Portal gun, they could have shot Portal from here to here, and their job would have been so much easier. And it's also inspired a lot of creativity, like videos and stories and stuff that come off of the fan base for Portal. So, yeah.
One of those up there, number 6, psychosocial moratorium principle. That's the idea that Vanessa had mentioned, where you have this risk, but you're not really going to die in it. So what it does is it encourages people to take risks, and the consequences are, okay, you fall in the water and you're dead, but you start over again. And one of the other things is the practice principle. So the fact that it rewards Vanessa and other players for practicing in a way that they find satisfying gets them to put more time on task. And one of the problems with learning is, to really learn, you got to practice a lot. Well, good video games encourage and reward practice. Bad school settings basically say you have to practice, and they don't reward you for it. They actually make it, you know, tedious, and they punish you for it. So this collection of learning principles comes from that book. There's 36 learning principles, and my guess is Portal probably has 30, 34, 35 of them operating big time.
Yeah, I was going through this, and a lot of them apply to Portal.
And you said this company is working with schools? Like,
Yeah, so the Valve company basically invites there's a video that I've got on the Portal page, and it shows what happens when a group of middle school kids go to Valve and are asked to build rooms, and they're given, you know, a quick intro to the software, and they build actual rooms in Portal that then when they play the game Portal, they're playing in the room that they created.
There's also a few other principles in here that are about like involvement in the game, and one great thing that Portal did, or what Valve did, was that it made Portal, which was kind of short, like shorter than I would have wanted it to be, but you do get really involved with it because you have so much motivation to complete the test. But then when it came around to Portal 2, they knew that they didn't want to basically restart, like, here's a new character, here's new tests, but it's pretty much the same thing over again. So what they did was they made sure that you got the same character and you had the same kind of situation when the same relationship with GLaDOS, and when they introduced new characters, they also made the game much longer so that you can get even more into it and more involved.
Great. Thanks, Vanessa. All right, now Jad is going to introduce us to something about intellectual property. How many know what intellectual property is? Kind of, sort of. So copyright is one form of intellectual property. The whole idea, okay, here's physical property. I own this book. But when I bought this book, that did not give me a right to then use these words any way I want, such as, you know, publish them again and then sell that. That's copyrighted. It belongs to the author. And so as we've moved from probably the 18th or maybe 17th, probably the 18th century when copyright came up, where creators were allowed to copyright their books, their plays, their poems, their works of art. It was all fine before everything was digital. Once we got digital, where anybody could make infinitely many identical copies at like sort of no effort and no cost, then the whole system of copyright became extremely unstable. And so what we've got now is a variety of things that are coming up that are sort of answers to say, all right, you can have some rights, but maybe not all rights, etc. So Jad, I'll hand it over to you, and then when you're done, I might have to come back and point to some things on the intellectual property page.
I have my lab timer, so I don't go too much over.
So prepared.
Hi everyone.
Hey, Jad.
So I feel like Dr. McGee might have slightly overstated what I'm going to tell you guys tonight. Obviously, if we're going to talk about intellectual property rights and what you can do to make sure that companies aren't using intellectual property regulation to sort of strip away what you really ought to be getting, can take like semesters or career-long time deals, and I only get 7 minutes. So I'm going to talk to you guys about one thing that I think is one of the most impressive initiatives that anyone has done to change the way we look at our rights to our media, to change the way we purchase and consume it. So first of all, I want to talk about, I don't actually have like right now any slides or anything, but I want to talk about what I think is wrong with the way that publishers of pretty much every single media are doing right now. So when someone publishes a book and you buy it, how much of that purchase do you think is contributing to the author of that book?
2%.
Thereabouts. So for all their trouble, they're getting a very, very, very tiny portion of your support. Most of the time when you say buy a product, support the person who made it, you're not supporting the person who made it. This is even more of a problem when you look at what publishing companies do that is against that author's will. So for example, if I publish a book and it costs $5 to make it into this book, if I may borrow your book, it costs $5 to put it into the form of this book, and then I sell it to you for $7, right? I've made $2 of profit, which I'm giving like cents off of to the author. But what if I say in the digital medium right now, it costs me $0 to make this product and $0 pretty much to deliver it to you? How much should I be costing? Should I be asking you to pay?
The author?
Should I be asking the user to pay? $2 would be the reasonable answer, right? Because that's my benefit minus what the cost was. Except most publishing companies are going to charge you between $7 and $10. And the reason they do that is because they're afraid that all the money they've put into infrastructure for making these books is going to be wasted resources. They also do it so that they don't compete with themselves, and because this is a lot harder to make copies of and give to your friends. And I don't think that's fair. So I practice pirating. I don't pay them the $7, and I don't pay them the $2. I get it for free, and I say, well, if you wanted me to pay you money, you should probably be more ethical about it. It turns out most publishing companies think that we do this solely because we're poor college students that don't have money. That's the majority of the reason behind it. But recently they found that a lot of initiatives and companies that are going against that trend are getting a heck of a lot more money than people who are doing copyright. Valve is one of the excellent companies that does this, by the way. Most companies operate really badly in terms of how much they give the publishers, how much they give the authors. If you buy a game through Valve's purchasing software, which is Steam, they make very little money, and most of the money actually does go to the game developers. They have very, very good sales that are cheaper than anywhere else you can get the game. What I actually want to talk to you guys about tonight is another initiative. You can see this screen.
So if you switch to Lectern Computer.
Called the Humble Indie Bundle, which started with video games, but is now no longer about video games. Well, it's still about video games, but what they're doing right at this second is not video games. So the Humble Bundle is a really, really surprising system where you pay what you want, right? So it's a collection, it started off as a collection of video games. You decide what you want to pay for them. You can pay 1 cent, you can pay thousands of dollars. You will get the same product, with one exception that I'll get to in a second. Furthermore, what you pay for the product is entirely customizable in terms of where the money goes. So you have 3 options. You can put part of the money or all of the money towards the people that make the bundle, towards the people that make the games, or in this case, books, or towards charity. So you can get all of these products by paying to charity if you don't want to give any money to the developers. Another thing they're supporting is, you'll notice it says DRM free. DRM is digital rights management. That means if you buy a song off of iTunes, Apple is notorious for their DRM. If you buy a song off of iTunes, you cannot make a copy of it and give it to your friend. It does not work. There are digital rights management protection on it that prevents that from happening. All of these are DRM free, so you can indeed copy them and give them to your friends. It supports charity, you can pay whatever you want, and in this case it's multi-format. The reason I'm really excited about this, and I'm telling you guys about it, there are 5 days and 23 hours left to buy it, is because it's a really great deal. These books altogether would cost you about $77. You can get them for 1 cent if you like. Or you can give however much you want. The exception is if you beat the average, it says pay above the average, which is right now $13.59. You will get these 2 extra books, a book and a visual novel that has Neil Gaiman's work, and a whole bunch of compilations of webcomics, like XKCD and Penny Arcade, in their published format, but as ebooks. How many of you guys read ebooks as well as printed books? Anyone who doesn't or doesn't have an e-reader or anything, these can also be read on a computer. The reason this is really exciting, as I said, is because so you scroll down, okay, I'm sold, you decide you want to buy it. Custom amount, I put in 0.01, that's what I want to pay, I'll pay 1 cent. They'll give you a picture, like a sad picture of like in the author need food, right, spare $1. If you pay over $1, they won't show you a sad picture. And then it appears you have no heart. Please prove that you are really human, and again it gives you a captcha. You can then go like, say, I want all of my cent to go to this person, or I want all of my cent to go to the Child's Play Foundation, or I want all of my cent to the Humble Tip. So the last thing I'm going to end with is, because I really have no time to tell you guys more about this, but this is like, to me, the biggest thing that's happened in media publishing since forever. You can also pay with PayPal, Amazon, or Google. You would think that this sort of business model is never going to make anyone any money, right? Just this collection of books has now raised $890,385. Sorry?
It just went up to 400.
Yep. And one really interesting thing I'm also going to point out to you guys, these are total payments, not payments per capita. It turns out people that use free operating systems, Linux, are paying more per capita than anyone else. Open source will not harm sales. That's another thing you can get from these statistics. So that's what I have to show you. The only reason I'm like talking to you guys is because I think everyone should go out and buy the Humble ebook bundle. You can pay a cent for it and not get the extras, or beat the average. I always beat the average. I paid $15 for it. They've done music before. They've done independent video games before. And I really think it's important that they're going into books. So we should all support this. Sarah?
So you're paying for all the books that were on that shelf.
Mhm.
So you can pay like a penny for like 10 books.
Yep. You can pay, which is like nothing. You wouldn't get all the books that have any locks next to them. So you would get all of these ones, right? The base deal, but not these extras or these extras. For a cent, yeah.
All right, thanks,
That's
Dad.
everything, guys. I'm sorry, you have a question?
After like the 5 days, does it switch into something different?
They will, after the 5 days, it'll be gone. You can't buy these anymore, but it'll be they'll come up with a new one after a while. And what they've done before is, after you've already bought it, they'll send you an email and say, we added extra content, you can go download it for free. So one time I bought a Humble bundle, and after a couple days I got an email that said, oh, we added the entire last Humble bundle to this one. So if you've paid for this one, you also get the last one, so go here to download it. And it's a model system that surprisingly works. So check it out. Download it.
So it turns out on the intellectual property page in Canvas, I've got a link to Humble Bundle. I also have a link to Cory Doctorow. So he's one of the authors there who is also, in addition to being an author of fiction, he writes essays on this. He's sort of an advocate of it. I have a link to a TED Talk by Lawrence Lessig. It is wonderful. That one particularly says about how big media's control of copyrighted stuff is strangling culture, and the people it's hurting most are you. So basically, if you have the idea that you cannot put a picture of Mickey Mouse into one of your essays because somehow it's a copyright violation, that's because big media has been working very hard and very strongly to basically say you don't own your own culture, where in fact you do. Now, this stuff has come up recently. There was a couple court cases this summer that were both decided in our favor. When I say our favor, I mean teachers, students, librarians. This book, this published collection by Dr. Ambrose and Robert Sternberg, this is where the Berliner essay exists. So we could have had you all buy the book. What do you think this book would have cost if you all had to buy the book? Nice little thin book. $8?
20 something.
10? 15?
20 something.
$117 for this book, right? Now, there are other things in here worth reading too, but the one we really wanted you to read was the Berliner essay. So one of the things Dr. Ambrose said was he got in touch with the publisher, Routledge, and said, what will you charge just to have that essay? Because if indeed they were selling that essay separately, the right thing for us to do would have been to say, okay, we're going to buy X copies of it, and it would be like what? So it could have been charged $17 for the essay. Well, it turns out they don't sell it separately. So that then allows us to take our fair use and say, we were never going to use the whole book. We were never going to get them to pay $117 for all the essays. So we get to use that one essay, which is less than 10%, for free. And if you go and you look at the PDF that's in Canvas, one of the things it says is, this is intellectual property that's copyrighted. You have a right to consume it to yourself. You're not supposed to pass it on further. You're not supposed to sell copies of it, etc. But this is a change in the law that recently came down in our favor, because for a while, the publishing companies were saying, you want that essay? Shell out $117 and buy the whole book. And that certainly would not be what anybody would consider to be fair. Any questions about that? All right, and again, one of the things that we've already seen in many of the things we've read is the idea that this stuff is worth money, right? And so education is worth money. You pay a lot of money for your education. Public K-12 education, basically the individual consumers don't have to pay directly for it, but what are they doing? They're paying property taxes that's paying for it. So the model of charging a lot of money for education or for what's in books is changing radically, and there's this thing called MOOCs, M-O-O-C, massive online open courses. So the big universities are saying, you want to take a computer programming course for Stanford? Guess what? You can do it for free. You just sign up. You and 150,000 of your friends are going to be in there looking at YouTube videos and learning how to program computers, etc. So all this stuff is very much in motion and changing right now as we speak.
And there's Khan Academy, which got really big too.
Yeah, Khan Academy, there's about 5 different ones. There's Khan Academy, there's Coursera, there's what is it? Can't remember the names of them, but they're out there. I'll find the names and put them in there. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna switch horses and we're gonna talk to, let's see if I've got this. We did the tour of Canvas, we did Jen, Vanessa. We're gonna look at the first 9 minutes, not the first 9 minutes, we're gonna cut out the 5-minute song. We're gonna look at minutes 5 through 14 of My Fair Lady. What is My Fair Lady?
Pygmalion.
Yeah, it's Pygmalion. Okay, how many had had anybody read Pygmalion before you read it for this class? Yes. In what context did you read it?
I had to read it in my freshman year of high school for my English class.
Okay. And how many have seen My Fair Lady? Okay, all right. So what we've got is this play gets turned into a musical, and that musical gets turned into a film. So I've got a link to it. Now I have a link to it in Canvas, and it was working, but it quit working. So I've got a working link in Blackboard. So we're all members of a Blackboard course originally.
Blackboard.
So if you log in, guests are not allowed into this course. What is this? Okay. All right. So this is my course. Is this my course? Courses? This one. Okay. So if you go into Blackboard, you would find this course, and if you go into ShareStream, you would find links to 2 videos. One of which is Pygmalion, and one of which is Educating Rita, which we're going to be viewing later on. Okay, so My Fair Lady. So if I click on this now, it will launch this viewer, and once it's rolling,
Oh, it's the entire film.
yeah, the entire film.
And we can watch that?
You can watch it, and what I'm going to do.
I don't know if that's fair use.
No, it turns out this is not fair use. This is Teach Act. So it turns out you've got Section 110, Paragraph 1 exemption, face-to-face, I can show anything I want. Teach Act, which takes your Section 110, Paragraph 1 exemption and puts it down to Paragraph 2 and makes it tiny because big media was working with the best legislature money can buy, meaning your elected representatives, and they said, don't let them watch our films in their dorm rooms, etc. But then fair use kicks in. So it turns out you can watch this by virtue of Teach Act, the whole thing. So I'm going to jump to minute 5, let's see. That's minute 18, 13, 5, 4. Okay. So we're going to watch about 9 minutes of this. And you don't need to tape anymore, Sarah. You can turn it off so that if you press the button in the middle, they'll stop the taping.
Okay, everyone say goodbye.
Bye.
Bye. It's dark. Okay.
I can sit. All right, so